The B.S. Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The B.S. Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the B.S. Report. A sunny day here in Southern California. NBA playoffs in full swing. Dallas clinched the Western Conference last night, much to the surprise of many, including myself. On the Subway Fresh Take hotline right now from ESPN, the magazine, ESPN.com, and ESPN, Ric Bucher. What's happening?
How are you, Mr. Simmons?
This is,
mean you're taking a break?
Am I taking a break? What do you mean?
Yeah, are you taking a break from becoming a one-man media empire?
Oh, stop it. Let's
Have a
talk
podcast with me?
basketball. Let's talk basketball. The Dallas Mavericks are 12-3 in the
Yes.
playoffs, and one of those three losses was the Brandon Roy crazy comeback game, which was a 1 in 1,000 type of loss. I mean, is this team just good? Can we say that this team's going to win the title?
They very well could. I'll be honest, with these playoffs, every time I've been asked to prognosticate on a series, I've begged, can I just see one game first?
Yep.
Because all of these teams are flawed, and we haven't seen them, by and large, play in the playoffs before, either individually or in these particular matchups. And so I can't, this is no news flash, but the Dallas Mavericks have been a stunning surprise, and they've done it while showing their weaknesses. I mean, they've won, but I don't know that you could say they've won convincingly. It seems, in fact, your friend Danny Ainge said to me, he said, it just feels like they're hanging by a thread at times, and I agree. It's almost as if I keep thinking, okay, well now finally they're going to get exposed, or something's going to happen, and those tragic flaws they're going to pay for them.
Yeah, but the Lakers win.
That simply hasn't happened. They have that team of destiny feel to them, just because whatever comes their way or however they're playing, they just seem to roll right through it.
The Lakers win was convincing. That was convincing. You got to give them that at least, right?
Yeah, but again, the difficult thing is how much was that Dallas and how much was that the Lakers? The Lakers just weren't anything close to what we've come to expect from them, particularly defensively. I mean, to me, it reflects just how thin the margin is between a team playing at its best and being vulnerable to losing to anybody.
So, Dirk was the best player in all three Western Conference series, and Dallas won all three of those series. Can we just say it's as simple as they had the best player, and that's how they won?
I don't know if you can. I don't know that the three opponents were so similar that you can make it that simple. But certainly, Dirk's fascinating to me. I expected Chicago to get there. I really want to see Dallas, Miami, because Dirk has erased so many demons.
Yeah.
That the last one is Miami, and particularly with Udonis Haslem back. I don't know if people remember, but Haslem was the guy who bullied him for the majority of that series back in 2006.
It's on YouTube.
That changed everything. And whether it's being scammed by the woman, whether it's the first round loss to the Warriors, Dirk just has this you can't do anything more to me. I've been beaten in every way, and so now I'm just going to play. I'm not going to be fazed by anything, and that's what we see. And I want to see if that can carry all the way through, or whether the finals and Miami Heat are some sort of kryptonite where he has a flashback.
Right.
and suddenly Dirk is not the Dirk that we've seen all
Is it possible, though,
long.
So you're not ruling out that in 06 and 07, teams had kind of figured out how to defend him to some degree, and now he has made the adjustments to it. And, the two things that I've noticed, if you go back and you watch the 06 finals on YouTube, he's trying to get to that same spot that he's been killing everybody from in these playoffs, right on the right side of the foul line. And Haslam's just mauling him. And whether they should have been calling it or not, I don't know. But Dirk didn't seem like he had the lower body strength to even hold his spot.
Yeah.
And now, for whatever reason, he does. And nobody can shove him off that spot. And then the other thing, he's making these shots at 45-degree angles, off of the wrong foot. And, it just seems like he's kind of mastered how to do that. I don't feel like he was totally there in 06 and 07.
Yeah, I'm not buying that he's done some sort of magical transformation in terms of his lower body strength, but I do believe that he has remained aggressive, and he's also I just see him spinning, and when they get up into him, he's spinning around them and driving to the cup, and those were things that essentially if you bullied him, he wouldn't take that awkward shot, or he wouldn't try to get to the rim. And now I see him doing that, and I see him doing that even when he gets his shot blocked at times, because I honestly feel that as a 7-footer, when he went to the rim, and he doesn't get great elevation, when he would get blocked or whatever, it was humiliating or something, that I'm a center and I'm getting blocked by a shooting guard at the rim. I don't want to do that again. I see a resilience in him above and beyond everything else that has made the difference. He doesn't stop attacking. He will take unorthodox shots with the game on the line rather than saying, this isn't a quality or high percentage shot. I'm going to swing it. And to me, that's the biggest difference. It's not as if we didn't know he could shoot like this. It's not as if at his height and where he releases the ball that it was difficult to defend him. It's just, you used to be able to get him to stop playing. And now, as clearly evidenced by the games against Oklahoma City more than anything else, he almost has the confidence that, look, you get me there, I'll close the door. What about Nick Collison's done about as good a job as you can possibly do in making the game difficult. Very underrated player, defender, etc. And so the one thing I will say though is that whether it's if it's a function of where he shoots from on the floor, or it's the supporting cast, they're not doubling him. We're sort of in a sea change in the NBA where when you have a guy who scores more slowly the way that Dirk does, and we saw the same thing with Orlando and Dwight Howard, there seems to be a new philosophy. You know what? It's going to take you a while to get every shot. We'll live with that because we're going to be getting down to the other end and scoring at a faster pace. So we're not going to double you and open things up and make it easy. We're going to see if that one guy can score enough to beat us when we're getting out and we're getting everybody involved in transition.
Let me throw this theory at you. Dallas is a team that just constantly has been tinkering with what it had. It's just year after year, the Antoine Walker, they bring him in, and they bring Devin Harris, and they trade Jason Kidd, Shawn Marion, and just on and on and on.
Right.
And now it seems like he's really comfortable with Kidd. He's been playing with Kidd for 4 years, and it just seems like they really know each other. He seems comfortable with Marion. Chandler's one of those guys who can fit into any type of team.
Wait a minute.
I know what you're going to say here.
Suggesting what I think you're suggesting?
What?
That the Jason Kidd trade was a smart trade? That the Jason Kidd trade is the reason that the Dallas Mavericks are now going to the finals? Is that what I hear?
I don't think it's the reason.
Oh, wait.
I think that
what?
First, this could go in a couple different directions. Explain to me how Jason Kidd is playing at this level in the playoffs after they had to literally send him home for 10 days because he was so bad February, March, April. Where is this coming from?
Honestly, I feel as if, number one, he's shooting the three better than ever. I mean, he could knock down open threes before, but now he's able to pump fake, get that guy to go by him, reset, and shoot. And that was one thing. If he could not catch, set, shoot, if you made him do anything else,
right,
that percentage went way down. Now he's much more viable. Two, I honestly believe that, essentially he's played mostly two-guard, the way they play. J.J. Barea coming on has had a huge influence in J. Kidd's efficiency. He just, I don't know that he's changed as much as he's just realized this is how I have to play, and I'm going to have to lean on these other guys.
Wait, hold on, though. He has changed, though, because he's basically Chauncey Billups now. He's basically the Chauncey Billups playbook. Fair,
except I would say that he's a better decision-making Chauncey Billups.
Okay.
And I will say this. This is the most amazing thing to me. I mean, if he, at the point where his legs just don't work anymore, they should just take his hands and, amputate them and put them, on a machine or something, because he still gets, how many times do you see, we saw it again last night. Kevin Durant drives on him. He should have no chance against Kevin Durant.
I know.
But as soon as Kevin Durant exposes the ball, those meat hooks come down, swipe the ball, and you're going the other way. When there was the big rebound at the end of the game, he's not jumping to get that rebound. He's in the area. As soon as the ball touches his fingertips, that's it. He's got the ball, and he's smart enough to say, oh, and you know what? And I'm going to get it to Dirk. Okay, his presence of mind in those hands is. I'm sure I said this on a previous podcast. When we were arguing about the strengths and weaknesses of Jason Kidd and Devin Harris, and to me, the cerebral game that Jason Kidd plays, the presence that he has on the court, and what that does to the rest of the guys, that just can't be underscored. How valuable that is. Where it's they look at J. Kidd and there's a confidence that comes over that entire team, and I believe that that's a big part of what we're seeing from Dirk too.
Well, two things seem to have changed a little bit. Now he knows every spot to get everybody the ball. He's just great at it. And that's the thing that I think is the most underrated with the point guard position. You talk about people picking apart Russell Westbrook and people like that. Really, one of the biggest responsibilities you have as a point guard is where everybody likes the ball exactly. You're almost like a chef. You're making everybody their little meal, and you're like, oh, you like asparagus, right? You put that on their plate. And, somebody like Peja, you throw him the ball right where he likes it so he can fire it right away. And it's just all these little nuances to it that I don't think people, factor in a lot.
Yep.
The other thing, though, they're now running that two-man game with the little, kind of the Malone Stockton pseudo high screen. But now that kid can make that three, it's kind of unstoppable.
Yeah.
Because he's making that three off balance now, which he never could do.
Yes. Jason has always been pretty good at setting guys up. But I would say that the reason it's taken a little bit longer here too is because so much of that he could do because he put pressure on you by his ability to rebound and get in transition, or his ability to penetrate, the windows that he could create for other guys were much bigger. Now that he can't do that, he has to be far more selective about, okay, this is exactly where this guy can can knock down a contested shot from this spot. And I get the feeling that he has a better grasp of that with all of these guys as well.
I don't think Dirk is really – I think he's been at this level for 3 years, and I think the difference is that Chandler is better than anybody they've had at center. Kid's playing better than he ever has at any point in Dallas other than the first full season. And then the Barea thing, who has another guy that can come off the bench and score 13 points in 17 minutes? Nobody has that.
Yeah.
And then Marion – another guy who you look at this and you go, how is he doing this? This is somebody that, his prime was over, and now he's starting to look matrixy again. I don't understand that either.
Yeah, Sean is a really sensitive guy. I mean, we've seen that even in his heyday in Phoenix.
Yep.
They were careful about that, and I really think sort of the going to Miami and then Toronto and I think people treated him as if his career was over, and he struggled through those years. That it took him a full year in Dallas. One, he wasn't in shape. Two, confidence crushed about where he was.
Yeah, took a salary hit.
And he's transformed his. So he's back in shape, and he's transformed his game. I mean, as ugly as it is, he posts up now.
Yeah, and
they are hideous shots, but they go in. I mean, his efficiency has been tremendous, and now it's almost because he has gone through that resurgence that now being a lockdown defender and maybe not getting as many touches, he's just happy to be a vital part of a winning situation again. And again, that's sort of this whole. I mean, not to make it too dramatic, but this whole Dallas team just seems to have we're seeking redemption quality about them in so many ways that to me is what bands them together. And Miami has sort of the same thing going, but it has more of an evil tinge to it.
Yeah,
it's like they put it upon themselves, and I don't know that the guys with Dallas did that. I don't know that Dirk necessarily did that, or Sean, or any of these guys. It is. I've been on some of the Miami radio stations, and they're constantly complaining. Why doesn't anybody like us?
I know.
Why doesn't anybody say that LeBron is the best player ever? And I'm thinking, you know what? I mean, I hate to say it, but the whole vibe down there is really difficult for anybody outside of Miami to appreciate, almost no matter what they do.
I got to say one thing. I researched, or I Googled Jason Kidd's stats for the playoffs as we were talking. The stats don't back up what I'm seeing. Like 2 years ago, he shot 45% from three and 46% from field goal. This year in the playoffs, 10 playoff games. This year, 40% field goal, 36% from three. But I don't know what his crunch time threes are, but it feels like he's just made some daggers this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe. And again, I mean, to me, some of that is how many is he shooting now versus then?
It's about the same.
Okay.
It seems like it's about the same. I'm doing this in my BlackBerry.
I mean, Bill, you and I have talked about this. If you step outside of the game and you look at the numbers can convince you of something different than what you're actually seeing. I
agree.
Kenny Smith brought this up on TNT the other night when he was talking about the points that Boozer scored, and he was saying, but none of them were impactful.
Right.
And to me, it's sort of the same thing. If you don't have a weight for particular shots made at particular times, then I don't really care what the statistics say, because it's not an accurate assessment of what that guy really contributed. To me,
you're talking empty calories.
It doesn't have to be in the last 2 minutes.
Right.
There's that vital shot. There was, to me, in the first quarter, when Carlos Boozer had 2 free throws and they could have pushed it to 11, and he missed both of them. I'm like, that is a killer.
Right.
That's so. Those are two. Missing those 2 is. That carries extra weight, and if you're not looking at if you're not grading out the shots through that prism, then the statistics just are flawed to me.
It's empty calories, but I like the statistics, and I think they're good. You're adding this into the evaluation of everything you're looking at. I think they're important. I think we get into trouble when we start going with the statistic first. And then trying to
trust me, I never want to ignore them. Look, I look at them as as much as anybody, I trust the team statistics more than I do the individual ones, because it's easier to go astray in the individual comparisons, particularly if you're taking two guys from two different teams and two different systems with two different roles with different teammates. I mean, if you can catalog who's on the floor for the opposing team and for your team, and the number of fouls each guy has, and where you are, time and score, and you can become that exact, and I think there's a way to make the statistics really say something that you can trust.
Well, I think like the statistics, like with somebody like Dirk, really work, like some of those advanced shooting statistics. But you look at it like the game that LeBron played against Chicago in Game 4.
Yeah.
And what he did on both ends and how much ground, like he basically became Scottie Pippen in that game.
Yes.
Plus he was doing everything offensively.
Yes.
And I just don't think there's any way to calculate that statistically. You can go with plus minus all that stuff, but to see him do that on both ends, he's basically taking out the best player on the other team defensively, and then on the other end doing everything.
Yeah.
I just don't think you can measure that with statistics past a certain point.
Agreed. And if someone wants to say, that there were times, there have been times where LeBron James is the best player in the game, you get no argument from me. There are times where, without question, I've always thought he was the most dominating physical presence.
Well, he's the most talented. We can agree on that.
Yeah. The capability that he has, without question. He just, for whatever reason, does not always apply what he's capable of. And
yeah, but are we criticizing him a little too harshly on that? Like, who does? I think I heard you on Coward yesterday.
Yeah.
You were defending Derrick Rose, and you were saying that the game that he played in Game 4, and he didn't play well, but he also, defensively, they were doing things to him that were just on a different level.
Yeah.
And you were saying that you actually came away from that game with more respect from him than less because of the way he handled it and tried to handle it. Yeah. I mean, couldn't you make the same case for LeBron in the Orlando series? In
the Orlando series.
2009. I mean, he basically was averaging 35, 9, 7. His rest of his team didn't show up. Yeah. And I feel like the defense put him in that situation where he had to carry the entire team himself, which he did, and it just wasn't enough.
Yes. But
are we too slanted one way or the other?
There are still times where I just feel as if LeBron at that time would he takes the easy way out, and I just don't.
So what is different about Rose then?
Does he have more requisite ability than Derrick Rose? Well, without question. I mean, it's 6'8", 270, the speed, all that he has. It shouldn't be an argument. But I'm not going to discount the intangibles. And you know what? Maybe I grade LeBron too harshly because I see what he can be, and I see what he's shown us at times. Yeah. And I expect to see that on a regular basis. And I will say, even the other night, the beauty of LeBron being in Miami with Dwayne Wade is that was he remarkable in defending Derrick Rose? Did he still score 35? Yes. But when it came to overtime, who won that game?
Dwayne Wade. Right?
Dwayne Wade.
Yeah. Dwayne Wade.
So it's I mean, and if LeBron does all that and they lose, then I don't know that we have the platitudes. And that's the beauty of having other guys that you can lean on, is that you can make a great contribution and then you win and everybody says, wow, did you see what he did? And that was phenomenal, and that was a huge part of the win. Rarely do they say, look at all that he did, but you know what? They lost. So, once again, LeBron, Derrick Rose, take your pick. Once again, that guy just didn't have quite enough.
It still doesn't sit right with me because I'm talking about just LeBron and the Wade thing, and we've talked about this for a year. But if we're playing pickup basketball all day outside, and LeBron's team isn't winning all the time, and he's getting frustrated, and he sees another guy in one of the other teams, and he says, "Why don't you and I team up?"
Yeah.
And everybody else goes, "Well, that's not going to be fair."
Yeah.
To me, it's a little bit of that mentality. Now, what I never expected was, watching them this year, I just didn't think they could win with two guys, or 2.5, or 3, whatever they get from Bosch from game to game. And now all of a sudden Haslam comes out of nowhere, and he's giving him something. Mike Miller is starting to look semi-competent. Yep. Anthony has been great defensively. They've basically gone small. They sat Ilgauskas for this series. They sat all the slow big guys.
Yeah.
And it's just like they've gone 96 Bulls. They've just gone, here's our team. We're 5 great athletes, whatever. And it's working. And to me, I don't know whether it's working because Rondo dislocated his elbow in Game 3 and Garnett got old in Game 4 and all that, and then Chicago, Boozer didn't show up, or it's really working and this team's just going to roll through Dallas, and then we're going to look back at this and go, holy crap, that team was really good. I don't know. What do you think?
And to me, that's the heart of these playoffs is that, I see what Dallas is doing, I see what Miami's doing, and I'm like, okay, really, how much is it them and how much is it who they've played and when they've played them?
Yeah.
And just a pivotal game here or there that has filled this team. It's this playoff run, and maybe it's because the youth and the relative collective inexperience of most of these teams that we're seeing. This year's playoffs have had more of an NCAA tourney feel to me, where it's playing 7-game series, I've never believed that in the NBA that it's, if you get on a hot streak at the right time, inevitably it's, are you the best team? Yeah. But I really feel as if the Heat, how much of it was Boston not executing versus the Heat playing well down the stretch?
Right.
I just feel as if,
hold on, can I answer that for you?
In their direction, and now they believe in something that may not even necessarily be true, but they believe it, and so they're a different team as a result.
Can I answer that for you?
Sure.
The Celtics should have won Game 4.
Yeah.
They blew that game. They played as bad as they possibly could and still had the ball at home with a chance to win the game. And, even overtime, you should take care of business at home. And that was a gift for Miami. They made some 20-footers and some 23-footers. They were a better team. I'm not arguing that. But I just feel like Boston should have won that game. They didn't have a point guard. I would be very interested to see what happened to Miami if Wade dislocated his elbow, halfway through that series. And then that Bulls game, let's talk about this. Can you just go to the hole? You're Derrick Rose. Just get to the rim. What are you doing a pull-up 20-footer for against a 6'8.5" guy in the biggest play of the game when you have a chance to get home court back, dagger, the whole thing. Just get to the rim. Try to get something going. I don't understand these 20-foot followaways that people do in this situation.
I will say this. His ability to get past LeBron, and I remember looking at the floor. There was no spacing on the floor.
Right.
There was nobody, and I was comparing it to the game they won in Chicago. I believe it was Chicago, where he drove on LeBron and kicked to the corner for Luol Deng.
Yep.
Wade came off. There was nothing. None of that existed on that play the other night, and so everybody being inside. To me, I felt as if Derek wanted to shake LeBron as much as he could, and people say he wasn't aggressive. Look, to me, not being aggressive, and the comparison again to LeBron in certain situations where LeBron sort of dances around the 3-point line and then hoists up a 3. Derrick Rose could have done that.
Yeah.
To me, what he tried to do is I'm going to try to drive as much as I can, push you back as much as I can, and get as decent a mid-range jumper as I can.
All right, hold on. Let me interrupt for a second, though.
Okay.
Why are these end-of-the-game plays so bad for basically everybody in the league now? Like Oklahoma City, same thing.
Yeah.
They have Durant, who, is one of the most unconventionally best scorers, I think, of the last 30 years and can get his shot in a variety of weird ways. And Westbrook, who can beat anybody off the dribble. And yet, that shot that they got at the end of regulation in Game 4, I think it was one of the 5 worst shots in the history of the NBA playoffs. They didn't even waste all the shot clock. They got a 35-footer with a hand in the face. Like, how does this happen at the NBA level?
Well, one, I mean, with KD in particular, and this is where I feel that like Westbrook has been criticized unfairly, is that KD, by his build, and what we've seen is that he gets buffaloed. He gets pushed to a place where you're just trying to get him the ball. Getting him the ball is not easy.
Like 06, 07 Dirk.
Yes, exactly. And the other part is that you're looking at, well, one, it's been 10 years now since they've gotten rid of the illegal defense. Teams and the way they zone defensively have become so good. And the Boston Celtics probably, Tom Thibodeau in particular deserves a lot of credit because they used this against LeBron very effectively. They used it against Kobe very effectively, where we're going to take away what you're able to do, not just as an individual player, but if you're going to run anything at the end of games, we're going to switch everything and we're going to zone up and we're going to make it really hard. Defenses have gone to another level, I believe. But the other part here is
I agree.
that we have for the first time in league history, we have no post threats.
Yeah.
So everything is perimeter oriented. Everything is drive and kick.
You're not counting Darko Milicic?
He didn't make the playoffs.
Okay.
Did he?
Sorry.
And so that changes the dynamic of how you can defend teams.
Well, hold on, though. You forgot Zach Randolph.
Get a big going to the rim.
You forgot Zach Randolph. Because that was basically Memphis' offense at the end of the games. He brought it back to the 1980s. We're going to throw it into this guy.
Yes.
And if you don't double team him, he's going to score. And if you double team him, he's going to throw it to a wide open guy. That's basically the heart of NBA offense for 60 years.
It has been. And if you look at all the teams that played that way, they made the playoffs, but they couldn't go further. I mean, Orlando with Dwight Howard, Memphis with Zach Randolph, to a lesser extent, San Antonio. Every team that had a dominant Portland Trailblazers with LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah,
I believe it's as much a reflection of where we are. The other part is Rick Carlisle versus the other 3 coaches.
Yeah.
Regular season games coached, regular season games won, playoff games coached, playoff games won. Rick Carlisle has done more in all of those 4 categories than the other 3 coaches combined.
Well, not Phil Jackson, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying of the 4 teams in the conference finals.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah.
So if you look at Dallas and you look at the way they execute and what they run, I don't want to oversimplify it, but Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki, and Rick Carlisle, is there any greater reservoir of experience than that on any of these other teams, Miami included?
Yeah, and the fact that Dallas is old and smart kind of makes me sad about the Celtics because I think they could have been the same thing. The Perkins trade, turns out that it was probably just a bad trade for both sides, or at least for this season. I don't think Perkins really helped Oklahoma City at all, and I think they did miss Jeff Green a little bit. Maybe if Jeff Green's there, Harden doesn't emerge the way he did, but ultimately, I think it changed the Celtics, as we've covered many times in this space, and just they weren't as tough and they weren't as big, and they just changed who they were.
I would say that I believe that those trades were made, unlike what we normally see with a trade as the trade deadline with powerhouse playoff teams.
Yeah.
I feel as if those trades were made for the future. I feel as if Oklahoma City getting Kendrick Perkins was as much an admission that Cole Aldrich and Byron Mullins, we whiffed on those.
Right.
And if we're ever going to if we're ever going to get a big man anytime soon in Oklahoma City, we're going to have to trade for him. And he's only 65%.
Yeah, that's not good.
He's not. Okay, you know what? We'll take it, and we'll see if we can rehab it over the summer, because I don't see any other way that we're going to get that type of guy here. And conversely, for Boston, it was, we got to pay him how much, and we're already how old, and Perkins does what for us?
And we have Shaq, and Shaq's coming back.
Oh.
And Shaq's going to step in those Perk minutes. We'll be fine. Jermaine O'Neal's coming back. We got those guys. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that.
Yes.
If you're Oklahoma City,
yes,
obviously it's a little raw right now, and you got a lot of stuff going on. They're not going to do anything major, right? I mean, the one thing you'd have to think about is whether Scotty Brooks is ready for all this. I would not trade Westbrook, and I would actually come out if I was Presti and say, look, we're not trading Westbrook. Right. You can write all your little sources say and all, people floating and Oklahoma City allegedly exploit. It's all BS. We're not trading him. He's coming back next year. I don't want to see a single trade rumor about him, because we are 100%, I swear on my life, we are not trading this guy. So shut up. I think he has to do that, because I think we're headed for a summer of Westbrook rumors.
Sam, I doubt that Sam will do that, because that's just not in Sam's nature.
Well, then he's going to get rumors all month, and I think it's going to make it worse. Yeah,
but it's been all playoffs long, and quite honestly, the key is, doesn't matter what Sam necessarily says as much as
Durant,
what Russ and Kevin Durant say, and this is going to be the difficult thing about that relationship.
Yeah.
And I believe that it can't happen, is Russ Westbrook is going to become the most dominant player on that team.
You think that's going to happen?
I do. I do, because I feel as if Kevin Durant is okay with it. And because when you look at the strongest personality, people have made the comparison to Stephon and KG. And it is fair in that Stephon was the more dominant personality, was the more aggressive player at both ends. And yet everybody said, this is KG's show.
I also thought that had to do with money too. They were giving KG that big extension.
But that's where it divides, because Russ isn't, the unfair comparison is that Russ isn't Stephon.
No.
In that, it has to be about me.
Well, he's a work in progress, and I think the big thing they're going to need to figure out is whether he's actually a point guard or not. And I don't think he is. I think he's a shooting guard. I don't think he's wired like a point guard. We talked about Kidd earlier and all the little nuances about how to play that position. And if you have a guy like Durant, you need somebody who knows what he's doing. And you have Westbrook and Durant, and you put a real point guard in that team, you're set now.
Yeah. I still believe that he can play, that he can be a point guard. I believe that his decision making can improve. The comparison I made was with Tony Parker. Tony Parker is, I've never thought of him as a true point guard, but they found a way to mix and match him with Manu Ginobili. And it's funny that I'm just thinking about this now, and how they mixed and matched and how successful they were doing the same with Harden.
Right.
Sort of in the Manu role.
Yeah, but they don't have the Duncan. The big key of that was that they had somebody in the low post who could draw the double teams and find guys and all that stuff. And Duncan and Ginobili were basically the creators.
Yes, I wonder if there's a way to utilize Durant, because Durant does have a post-up game. If there's a way, and this is where there is responsibility on Scott Brooks, and this is where I also have a big issue with everybody just piling on Westbrook. Look, Kevin Durant has to get stronger. Kevin Durant had a lot of opportunities where he could not shake a stronger defender, either to get the ball or in situations where he's taking a 28-footer because he doesn't have the requisite ability to create a shot against that guy.
Also, I need a little FU edge from him, which he showed last year in the World Championships. Yeah. And you blow a 15-point lead at home in Game 4 in one of the 10 biggest playoff collapses I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And even before we went into overtime, you could just tell by the look on his face that he was done.
Yeah.
The moment was too big for him.
When I say that Westbrook is going to become the most dominant player on this team, who was the guy, and you can say yes or no, it was right or wrong, who was the guy who was getting teased? Who was the guy who was the most belligerent about what was happening?
Right.
It was Westbrook. And that, trust me, on teams, people recognize that, and they recognize whether it's real or not. And so there are times where Russ is taking on the world and too far and with too much of an extent. He's battling what people are saying about him, and that I'll show you attitude gets him in trouble. But I would rather have the guy with the I'll show you attitude and find a way to rein it in and make him smarter about how he utilizes it than the guy who does not have that does not have a big reserve of that. No. I will get this done.
I think Westbrook and LeBron were in the same boat in these playoffs, in that, I think we're picking them apart a little too much. I include myself. I was disappointed in the way Westbrook played. The one thing he didn't get enough credit for, which I thought was one of the most amazing things that I saw in this whole playoffs, I'd put in the top 3 or 4, triple overtime Memphis. Everybody's gassed. Westbrook is still at full speed.
Yeah.
In a triple overtime game, it's like he just stepped on the court and put his sneakers on. To me, that was the athleticism and stamina that he showed in that game, and that LeBron showed in Game 4 of the Miami-Chicago series. Mm-hmm. I thought were the two most incredible things I saw in the playoffs.
And quite honestly, that's where I feel that we are with the NBA now, in that these teams are built on one superior athletic player. That's where the game is right now, where if you don't have that freakish guy, or at least let's say that's how teams are playing, and that we have that one freakish guy, and that we're going to impose that upon you and see how you respond and create openings for all of our lesser players off of that. And that's where Dallas is the exception here. Yeah. And again, not to anticipate a Dallas-Miami series.
It's going to happen. Come on.
There just seems to be a whole lot at stake. I mean, I know a lot of people, myself included, I sort of wanted to see one last dance between the Celtics and the Lakers. Yeah. And there's some questions about how much intrigue is left with the teams that we have left. But a Dallas-Miami battle, I believe, hits upon some of the larger themes that go beyond, in large and small, inside basketball, outside basketball, that I think will be captivating for mainstream America.
I would have agreed with you more 3 weeks ago. Here's what I will say. Yeah. I think you got to hand it to Miami. I mean, I don't like the way the team was put together. Right. I don't like the way LeBron and Wade celebrate some of these plays, and I thought they just went so overboard in the Boston series. Like, you want a round 2 series, like you get out of the crowd. You don't have to lie in the crowd for a minute. But you can't deny how hard this team is playing. Yeah. I mean, what have they played? Probably 15 playoff games at this point. I think they've gone full tilt in like 13 of them. And the level that they've played this Chicago series, I mean, you can't ask for anything more. I really respect it. I respect how hard they're playing. I really do.
And I do wholeheartedly. And the way that they have come together, and particularly the way Wade and LeBron have found ways, even Chris Bosh to a certain extent, the way they have all
good disclaimer
sacrificed their games.
Yeah, I like the to a certain extent, because that's exactly what I would have said there. He's had moments. Yes. I think the Celtics could have broken him in the Boston series, and I really think it would have been irreparable. And they just, Rondo got hurt, and it just for whatever reason they kind of let him. KG got old overnight in Game 4 and all that stuff, and now I think Bosh has his sea legs a little bit. Yeah. But
you know what's balanced the scales too is that we've always thought of Miami as the supremely arrogant team.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe everybody set. That's what set everybody against them. And I feel in some ways, maybe less in a less apparent way, but still there, that Boston played Miami in an arrogant way. The way
I agree
they
with
kind
you.
of messed around down in Miami. I felt like Boston had to win one of those first two games in Miami, and they were gettable games. And Boston played with a sort of arrogance, like, you know, you'll fold at the end, and we'll exploit it. And
I felt like there was a little fear on their part from the difference in athleticism, and when Pierce got thrown, you know, when Pierce got that little thing with James Jones,
yeah,
got the technical, and I'm sitting there on the sofa going, wait a second, James Jones just got into Paul Pierce's head?
yeah.
What's going on here? Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer. It's James Jones. You got to be kidding me. That's when I started to get worried.
To be honest, the whole thing with Joakim Noah and the slur. When I look at it, that's a guy who's becoming unhinged a little bit. I know it's with a fan and it's not with the other team, but it's sort of the same thing. Look, guys hear stuff all the time.
I know. What do you respond to that for? Yeah.
And when I talk to guys on the Bulls bench, they could not recall exactly what the fan said, but what caught their attention was that Joakim Noah went back at the guy. That was the alarming thing. It was like, wait a minute, that never happened.
He's somebody that hasn't taken enough heat in the playoffs. I'm really disappointed with the way he's played. I thought that he would be a man possessed, especially in this Miami series, where Miami doesn't have anybody on that roster who does the things that he does. And part of me wonders with Thibodeau, I wish he had just, in Game 4, just said, and I tweeted this, all right, who are my guys? Who are my guys that I can go to war with? Because this is now a series that is starting to look like the 2010 finals, where it's a turf war. You're throwing all normal conventional rules of basketball out the window. Who are my toughest guys? Who are my guys that I'm going to go into battle with? And for me, it's like Kirk Thomas has to play.
Yes, thank
Bogans,
you very much.
Noah, hey, Boozer, I'm putting you on the bench until you come in and you're a maniac. Rose, Korver's out. That's what, at least in Game 5, I hope I see tonight, that he's going to go down swinging with the toughest guys in his team.
I could not agree with you more. And I believe that has been, in some ways, that's been the journey of discovery that the Miami Heat have had this year.
Yeah. They realized who their toughest guys were.
Who their tough guys were. And I feel as if they were still one short, and Udonis Haslem coming back has made all the difference in the world. Quite honestly, my feelings about Miami and their ability to win it all this year went away when Udonis got hurt and I did not expect him back, or I did not expect a Udonis anywhere close to what he's done.
Me too.
You can't underscore just what that one additional guy does to their mix. I'm still not buying that Mike Miller is going to be there every time, but Haslam is just a huge. Those are the guys. And I will say this too: as much as people love to kill Bibby and what he can't do anymore, Bibby's just going to play. When he's on the floor, he's not. Whatever he can or can't do, he's not going to be fazed by the situation. And when a guy is anxious or nervous or uncertain, an entire team feels that from that guy, and it will rattle the entire team. And you
just described the Perkins trade and the effect it had on Boston. All of a sudden they had Christidge. Do we trust him? Jeff Green, can I trust him?
Yeah.
And it went down the line, and all of a sudden their identity changed. And that's the one thing with Dallas. This is I've mentioned this before, but I went to Game 3 of the Portland-Dallas series, and Portland came out. Wes Matthews made like 10 straight three-pointers or something crazy, and crowd's going crazy.
Right.
And you could just see Dallas wasn't fazed.
Right.
And I started looking at the roster, and I'm like, all right, who are the guys who aren't afraid right now? Right. I'm going through, it's like, Kid's not afraid, Nowitzki's not afraid, Chandler's not afraid, Marion's not afraid, Berea's not afraid, Page is not. It's like, wow, they got a lot of guys who aren't afraid right now. Right. And that's when I started to think, could they win this?
To the Chicago point, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have seen so many guys with the Chicago team that look tough and stuck in during the regular season who have not been able to answer the bell in a variety of ways.
I include the coach.
In this postseason. Yeah, I would put some there too.
This team was the toughest team in the regular season. They had a real nasty edge by April.
Yes.
And they were, I don't want to call them bullies, but they had a little bit of that arrogance.
Yes.
And now Miami, I think Wade and LeBron to a lesser degree and Haslam have been the three toughest guys in the series.
Yes.
And that's it. And that's why Miami's going to win. If I'm Chicago, I go down swinging. And I tweeted this. I was like, I joked that Thibodeau should show the McHale clothesline 20 times in a row on a loop before Game 4 and then just walk out. Listen, it's not about getting guys hurt. It's about you got to protect your territory. I love the Boozer foul with 4 minutes to go. Even though he got the flagrant, which was an idiotic call, at least they stood up, and it's you can't let Wade and LeBron strut around after every
the Chicago Bulls team. Regardless of the series, they need to win Game 5. They need to not allow Miami to celebrate on their home court, because I feel as if in some ways this battle between these two teams is a little bit like the early games between Detroit and Chicago.
Oh.
There's going to be carryover, regardless of how this series ends, there's going to be carryover effect down the line. And every inch that the Chicago Bulls cannot give away now will serve them later, assuming that these teams are going to be the same on the other side of the collective.
Well, I felt same thing with Oklahoma City. They would have been better off just losing to Memphis. I think there was real damage done in that third series, and there were a lot of sores that got opened up that are going to be tough to close.
Yeah,
Harden was the only plus.
I guess the one thing is that you're playing a Dallas team that, to me, I don't know that they're going to be viable moving forward. Certainly not with this group.
No, but I mean, there was more Durant-Westbrook damage. I thought Ibaka took a real step back. The only guy that really came out smelling like a rose in that series was James Harden, who, I think that's now potential. I thought Ibaka was the potential third All-Star for them.
Yeah.
It could be Harden, too,
again, this is a little bit like people look at, the big game that Chris Bosh had. And saying, well, he's not getting the recognition either. Come on now, Carlos Boozer is guarding Chris Bosh, or Joakim Noah who's having a bad series, who is going to let him shoot that jumper all day long.
Yeah,
and that's falling. Don't tell me that Chris Bosh is a pivotal player now in this series. What he's doing is a huge bonus, but it's not the deciding fact. I mean, that's sometimes it drives me nuts when a guy has a game like that, or we look at the number. I mean, it was the same with Boozer. He had a bounce back game. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. There was a camouflage game.
He's been
he was
massive
horrendous defensively. Whatever he got offensively, he gave back and then some at the other end.
Massive disappointment. And you look at that at last summer, and the fact that they didn't go after Ray Allen, that they spent that much money on Boozer, which I thought was a great sign. I was like, Carlos Boozer's a 2010 guy, and that contract might really hurt them going down the road.
Yeah, I feel as if they have a ceiling with Carlos Boozer, and I just wish, honestly, I felt like the best guy that they could get, again, because of the way the game's being played, would have been Joe Johnson.
Didn't have a choice,
though. That combination, to me, you can, size-wise, athletically, the personalities, all of that. I salivate at the idea of a team led by Derrick Rose and Joe Johnson. It fits the Chicago mindset, and you can go forward with that.
Is it fair to evaluate Chicago and Oklahoma City, though, who really weren't expecting to be this close to a title in 2011? And it's like I think their ETA was 2012 for the teams they were building, and all of a sudden that got jump-started by a year.
I'm not going to evaluate them and say that they were a disappointment by any stretch, but I do believe that you can look. I believe that we can look at what transpired and have a sense of where they have to go moving forward.
Yeah,
like I agree. What parts work and what parts don't. And I'll be honest, when I look at Chicago as much as I thought that they had a lot of pieces in place, I almost feel as if you have Derek and what else?
I like Dang. I think if Dang's your...
Boy, he's
your
so up and down. And
if he's your fourth best guy, though?
The toughest guys on the team, I don't put him in that category. He to me is a lot like Noah in that, at times he gives it to you and you get excited, and then when you really need it, he can't take that next step. And that, you're hamstrung by it's such a tease. You're hamstrung thinking, okay, if he would just give us the A game, 70% of the time rather than 55 or 60, we'd be better. But you just never know when you're going to get it, and chances are you're not going to get it when you need it most. And that's why I look at all those pieces, and I just feel as if there's a lot more work to be done by Chicago, having seen the way they've played in these playoffs.
My only thing, the only counter I would have is that Boozer, got hurt preseason, kind of came back. He was battling a couple things, and the team kind of went in a direction that was a good direction without him. Never seemed like he totally fit in. Yeah. And I think if I'm Chicago, I at least want to see another year where I get a full year of him. Rose and him learn how to run that high screen pick and pop all the time, the way that Darren Williams did with it. And, at least after year 2, then we know.
But if Boozer isn't willing to defend harder than he does, and look, he's not a shot blocker. He doesn't, he's not particularly quick, but he doesn't. I mean, Kurt Thomas is twice the defender he is.
I know.
That's 37. I mean, there's no excuse. You can play harder defensively and make the game and help your teammates more than Boozer, who will not step up on a drive for fear of foul trouble, so that he's not going to be on the floor to get his shots. It's just that tears at a team that relies on the collective as much as the Chicago Bulls do.
Who would have thought Kurt Thomas would have been the guy everybody thought should play in round 3?
Man,
unbelievable.
They call him Big Sexy. He's phenomenal in terms of one of those guys with staying power, who is just so smart. And he old Crazy Eyes.
Yeah.
That's the thing I always remember about him. Just those big crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Is such a calming influence with that team now.
All right, Ric Bucher, are you working any more of these games or no?
If in some way, shape, or form, Chicago, I'm not working any games. If Chicago, if that series somehow gets to a 7th game, which I do not expect at this point, I would go back to Chicago for that, and then I'm doing I'm the sideline reporter on our ESPN radio broadcast for the finals.
Yeah, listen, I don't think the Bulls are going to win this series, but go down swinging at home. You're in front of your own crowd. Just don't let. Yeah, go down with some pride.
Wouldn't it if they lose in 5 to Miami? It's not going to make their season a disappointment, but it'll change the way we look at the Chicago Bulls this season for sure.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Ric Bucher, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
You got it.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the B.S. Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.